Hello everyone, Zelarinth here, and for today's video on Umamusume, we're going to talk about pull priorities, but from a new player perspective. I try and do this about once a month, not too long after I do my pull priorities video for pretty much everybody else. It's more of a veteran player. I like to try and do this as someone who's coming in as a brand new player. This is always a shifting goal for them. And so I try to give some ideas on how you may want to approach starting the game at this point if you're coming in with basically nothing. And I feel like right now we're actually in a good spot for anybody that is starting right now, as we currently have the Fine Motion and Kawakami Princess banner, which just dropped today. Now, I've been a little bit too busy, or normally I'd be streaming people's polls on this. But I think this is a great point for people to be starting, because this is a banner that I feel like is a good one to reroll on. Now, Kawakami Princess not being the craziest in terms of a good speed card compared to what we currently have, but as a new player, when you're coming in with nothing, if you can re-roll to get yourself a decent speed card right off the bat, especially going into making you track blazer, even if you get it at 0 limit break, which is really not that good, but you get that race bonus 5. If you can get that additional limit break 1 through rerolls, you'll get power bonus. Now, you won't have that initial friendship gauge, which will really suck, which kind of needs you to top off the card, but that'll get you started with something that can work with some race bonus. But the main thing you're actually going to reroll, if you reroll on this banner, is going to be for Fine Motion. And that is because you can always borrow very strong speed card, one of them being like Machikane Fukukutaru or NTR after she drops. And so Fine Motion's actually the one I would say, if you're going to be starting and willing to reroll to try and get as many copies of her on a roll as you can, as she's going to be a card that you can use in every single one of your decks and be a meta level card. Then you can borrow a good speed card to pair with her. Like I said, you have the Fuku card, you have the NTR card that's dropping on the next banner, or you can go with something like Kita-san Black, which is still really strong, even if it has a lower race bonus. And the nice thing is you can just dump everything you have into this banner, so that should hopefully get you a decent selection of SR cards. Now, I will say the farther we get into this game, the more and more SRs that get added, and the harder it is to really get started with SRs, and meaning getting a lot of dupes of them. So you are going to struggle quite a bit just in that initial start, because you're unlikely to just get MLB of SR cards like we had seen in the past, when there's a lot less of them in there. Now, I will say you have a lot of options as well as you're starting the new game. Now, you have Speed Suzuka you can grind out for, Speed Narita Bryan that you can get from the story modes. So those can get you some speed cards started. And then if you have this Fine Motion, then it kind of opens up a lot of options for you and what you might want to pull on going through making new track. And I feel like there's two different directions you may want to go with the upcoming banners. And so one, as a new player, this is the banner you should be pulling heavily on right now while it's available. Do not pull on the NTR and Narita Top Road Admire Vega banner. You probably have seen a lot of videos on Admire Vega. This is just going to be a waste of your pulls. You're going to struggle in, just as a new player in general. That's always, you're having to catch up, and it's going to take a little bit of time to do that. So you're going to struggle regardless, and this card is only going to be good for this scenario. And what I would just say, as a new player coming in right at the beginning, just accept you're gonna struggle a little bit. You're not gonna be super competitive right out of the gate in it. And instead, I would say you should just kind of use it. Maybe do the open league, where you'll have a lot easier time. You'll meet the stat requirements very easily, the top that's allowed in there, and then continue to work through this one to save to actually pull on some better banners that'll be coming down the road. Now, there are a couple that you could be looking at here. If you're really just wanting to really amp up your deck now, as you go through making new track, I would say the first one, if you like your end closer styles, which are the ones in the back pushing up to the front, you have Mr. CB Wit that will drop here. You don't even need a lot of dupes on her for her to immediately get some value. You just get that 1 limit break, and you have her race bonus unlocked. You have the Wit bonus. The only thing you're losing out on is mood effect. But for your end closers, you're getting right out of the gate with a very strong gold. And this can be a staple in your deck at this point. Even if you don't have an end closer, while it's not going to be as good as the other ones that other people have, it can be kind of a staple for you, unless you get lucky and get some of the SRs that are going to be probably better staple pieces for a while, like Marvelous Sunday or Agnes Tachyon, just simply because of the race bonus and the stat stick. But this one should do you fairly well if you get this one. And you only need Limit Break 1 to do that. After that, you have not too long after. Let's see. You have the Summermaru Zensky card. This is a very good speed card. And while it is focused on front runners, it can be utilized even at limit break 1, just like Mr. CB, as just kind of a generic card. Because what it's really got going for it is this training effectiveness. You get 5 per level of the current training facility. So if the training facility is level 5, you're getting 25 training effectiveness on it, regardless of what she lands on. So she's almost like a floating training effectiveness card. But she also has the bonus, if you like frontrunners, of having like a lot of the frontrunner stuff they want, and a very important gold that's going to be extremely useful, which is the gold version of Leader's Pride. And so those would be the 2 big banners I would say as a new player you should pull on. Now, when it comes to the Umas, going all through Track Blazer / Make a New Track, there's quite a few options that you have here. I would say right off the bat, if you want to be able to do the long races, now I will say as a new player, the very first Champions meetings that's on the Hanshin 3200 is going to be very hard for you to be competitive as a new player in Grade A. Definitely would want to go in the Open League. But you have an option to actually be able to make yourself competitive in that Open League, which is going to be the Uma that will be getting free pulls on, which is Kita-san Black. And this is going to come right after the current banner with Fine Motion Kawakami Princess. Since we have free pulls on it, you effectively are getting a discount if you pull all the way up to Pity. And being a new player, you have a lot of pulls that will be coming in as you're playing the content. So after you get done with your rerolls on Fine Motion, you should be able to, if you're playing a lot, to save up the required pulls to take Kita-san Black all the way to Pity. And I think she'll be a good pickup just in general, not only for the longs, but you can also utilize her, while she won't be as strong as other frontrunners, on the other distances. Because while her alt is more targeted towards longs with the acceleration, she does have a speed increase for the other ones. If you kind of look at the details here, velocity when positioned towards the front, on the 3rd corner. So on the 3rd corner, she does get a speed increase. So you can use her outside of the longs, but longs are what she's the best for. And then going from there, you have a couple other options. You have Saiyan Sky Ballroom, which is kind of another one like Kita-san Black with a good inherit for the longs on there. As a new player, I think she's an easier skip for now. Save your pulls. And I'd rather pull on Nishino Flower, which is going to be a very strong inherit on your Pace Chasers, which is the ones right behind the front runners, that work similar, and then try and get you acceleration on very specific tracks that it works on with her alt. And she could be a good Uma for you to use. So you have her. And now I've talked a lot about Nice Nature being a very niche one, but for sprints, to me, new player, easy skip. You got a lot of other things you got to think about first before you get the more niche options. You just got to kind of get yourself set up. And so pretty much all three here, mostly skip on the Umas, unless you have like a favorite. If you have a favorite, of course, pick somebody up that you really like, that you're going to be able to use and play the game, even if you're going to struggle for a little bit until we get what I believe will be when you can actually really start getting competitive, which will be the next scenario. I will say, if you want to be competitive in dirt, you will have saved up quite a bit if you skip most of this up to this point. You could pick up Corpano Ricky, which is going to be a very strong dirt Uma, one of the meta ones, still to this day very strong on dirts. But after that, the big thing is you can pull heavily on this banner, and this is the big banner I would say to really try and get yourself established, because Agnes Tachyon Speed is going to be a very strong speed card as a link card in Grand Live. But since you don't have Kita-san Black as a new player, you missed the opportunities there. This can be your good just filler slot stat stick card for now. So you can just use this and everything. It is targeted towards Pace Chasers, but it's a good stat stick, at least until we get to the point that you get some of the other ones. And it'll be one of the meta cards going through this scenario. And then it is paired with the pretty much must-have PAL card, Light Hello, which basically has interactions. Every scenario is going to have PAL cards basically after Track Blazer that has interactions within the scenario that makes them pretty much must-have if you want to be build competitive Umas within it. So you'll have 2 meta cards for that scenario. Plus, if you've pulled heavily and rerolled and Fine Motion, you'll have Fine Motion. Then you have your 4th card basically being your Borrow. and you basically now have a deck of 4 cards. And you're almost caught up at that point. And then from there, you pretty much have, depending on how you've approached the other cards, you have 2 options here. If you didn't get MLB Fine Motion, maybe you only have Limit Break 3, you can top her off on this rerun banner that has her. And then you also have Summer Maruzensky on here, so you can potentially top her off alongside Fine Motion here. But the big one also is going to be up here with the stamina card. Right now, you don't have you don't have a meta stamina card, or really probably any stamina cards, unless you lucked out on them on your rerolls or other pulls. And on the Super Creek Mr. CB Wit card, you can then get yourself, try and go ahead and get an MLB Super Creek, and then maybe potentially top off Mr. CB if you pulled already a Limit Break 1, or if you decided to skip that just to really save pulls coming into this scenario. You could potentially get her up to Limit Break 1 or higher, pulling on this one. And at that point, you're pretty set. You're mostly caught up now, because at this point, after one scenario, you would basically have, hopefully, Fine Motion MLB, a decent speed card in Summer Maruzensky, Agnes Tachyon, speed, which would be another really good speed to pair with that Maruzensky. Depending on how your Kawakami Princess pulls went when you went on the Fine Motion banner, you have that card as well. So that gets you 2 speed, and one wit. You have your other wit with Mr. CB that you could be potentially using. You have now Super Creek, which would be basically a 5th card for a deck, and then you have your Borrow. And so you basically will now have a full deck of SSRs over the course of a scenario and a half-ish. Now, you'll have other things that kind of get mixed in there with SR cards, and it's just going to come down to what you get. I can't really prepare, talk about all the situations that you can run into at this point with SRs because there's so many of them. But I mean, I know you can always ask questions, whether it's in my Discord or in others, with what you currently have and what you might want to work towards. Because the farther we get into this game, the less reliable on getting specific SRs are going to be, and it's going to become more and more account specific when it comes to things that you get outside the banners. But yeah, that's pretty much it for new players. That's kind of my thoughts on how I would approach it as a new player right now. But yeah, and if you like my content, if you can like, comment, subscribe, it really helps. And thanks for watching.